Everybody stand and salute. Two. Before we present the colors, render a prayer. Heavenly Father, Supreme Being of the universe, we thank Thee for this opportunity together once again to remember those who were fallen in the Korean War. We ask You to protect them and all those from previous wars. Keep them in Your safety until we join You in the march to eternity. Amen. Hand salute. Present the colors. Just go. We'll now have Kim Jeremiah sing the national anthem. It's all yours, Kim.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two. We're going to do away with the POW MIA table because of the effect of the wind and the fragility of the table. We don't want it to blow away on us. But in its place, we have the the honor of having one of our senior senator, United States senior senator. Please welcome Senator Richard Blumenthal, sir. Welcome to Waterbury.
Thank you, John. Everybody, please sit down. I don't have the rank to order you what to do, but I'm going to take John's place in that way. Let me just say how grateful I am to be here today in a place that always honors its veterans. No city or town in the state of Connecticut, no city or town in the country is more respectful in honoring its veterans than Waterbury and the surrounding area. So thank you, every one of you. Thank you to John and the committee for putting this together. You really deserve our appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Uh, let me just make two quick points. Uh, I'm a dad, 4 children. 2 of them have served, one in Afghanistan in the Marine Corps, the other in the Navy and Special Forces. And I just want to say the men and women who have served in Korea in every conflict are their models. You are the reason that young men and women following your role model continue to fight and serve and preserve our freedom all around the globe. I'd like every veteran who is here today to please raise your hand so that we can thank you for the freedoms that we have today, every veteran, and particularly the Korean War veterans. Nobody should think that war is forgotten. The country that launched that intercontinental ballistic missile yesterday is still a threat to the United States of America. And we should honor our Korean War veterans because they were the tip of the spear and continue to remind us how much we are under threat throughout the world. Thank you to the Korean War veterans for your patriotism and your contribution to this great nation. And finally, let me just say, my hope is that we will honor our veterans, not just in word or rhetoric or speeches, but in deed, in action, providing the kind of health care, as well as education, jobs, skill training. Yesterday, the House, and I'm so glad my colleague on the Veterans Affairs Committee is here today. I'm on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. Elizabeth Estes on the House. We extended the choice program through an agreement that was then voted on the House, the health care program that offers greater opportunities for veterans outside the VA, but strengthens and preserves the Veterans Affairs health programs. But we need to do so much more. It's just a down payment. We have to resolve as a nation to leave no veteran behind when it comes to health care and education and skill training and jobs and all that they deserve. Let us leave no veteran behind. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your service, and thank you for making this observance so special. Thank you.
Thank you for your presence, sir. You know, as usual, the program that we make up has a lot of fill-ins, so just bear with me if it sounds like I'm off the track, because sometimes I am off the track. As I said, even those that have gone before us will always appreciate a little levity in any program. Life goes on. As I said, we're not going to have the POW table, but we're going to have the presentations of wreaths. Leonard. Go. The first wreath that we traditionally present at any of our events, in particular again today, for all who died in service, Mary Kite, our president of the Gold Star Mothers, will present the Gold Star wreath, escorted by Joseph Ostrowski, commander of Post 7330 VFW in Oakville.
What happens to the holder?
Don't worry about it. Play it by ear. Just set that right up in front in the middle there. All set. For Korean War veterans, Ron Jerzik a Korean War veteran himself and a classmate of mine in high school. For Greater Waterbury veterans, Audrey Harrell, sister of Lynn Harrell, a Vietnam casualty. Where's Itch?
Just here.
I forgot to tell him to escort her.
John, Rinaldi, and Whitey will present the
Yeah,
KOW thing.
that's usual.
Oh, you got one with a stamp.
For Korean War veterans Tony Sagnella and Michael J. Dalton, both who served in Korea, Town Clerk Anthony Spinella, daughter of Tony Sagnella, and City Clerk Michael J. Dalton, nephew of Michael J. Dalton, will present a wreath in their honor. For Purple Heart recipients, Frank Guerrera, himself a Purple Heart recipient. Elks Lodge, number 265, presenting past exalted ruler Michael Madzik, Inner Guard George Reef. I don't know if the Rat Pack Motorcycle Group is here. So they're on our list. They usually are at many of our events. There are no other wreaths other than the POW MIA. Oh. I'm sorry. I got on the list here. Emblem Club 552, Linda Gavin, past president, and Kathy Corcoran, past president. My apologies. Got it right there in front of me. Thank you. That's why I always ask, are there any others? Because the last one we always present is the one that has lasting meaning for many of us. The POWMIA will be presented by John Rinaldi, Whitey, Zyko. Yes. This wreath is a symbolic wreath presented here at this monument, the monument of all wars, and symbolically it's presented, received, and then placed at the POWMIA, what I used to refer to initially as the Field of Hope area, because it's always been a field of hope, that some, if not all, would be returned. And so the wreath has been placed and will go on. Thank you, Leonard Romanello, for your service in presenting the wreaths. We'll have a moment of silence. You don't have to stand. You don't have to. Okay. I'm standing. And now you may be seated, and we'll have music, the Forgotten Ones, sung by Rick Speck. This is a song written by Rick Speck and Frank Guerrero, Purple Heart. Want to come here?
Thank you, John. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I don't know what these guys do right, but 20 years without rain, so I wish I had their connections. But I want to thank everybody here on the Veterans Committee for allowing us to participate in this event. As John had mentioned, this is a song that was inspired by my co-writer, Frank Guerrero from Middlebury, originally a Waterbury native. And some people may have heard the story before, and some people may not be aware of it. But back in 1995, this is before the Korean War Memorial was dedicated down in Washington, Frank was at the Memorial Day Parade, and you had a succession of veterans go by the reviewing stand. And you had one gentleman in a uniform from World War I, standing ovation. Gentleman from World War II went by, standing ovation. And then the Korean War guys who were very proud walking, and it was absolute silence. And then you had Vietnam, again, you had an ovation, Desert Storm at the time. So I asked Frank, you know, what he and his friends were thinking. And they were both, well, I shouldn't say both, they were quite upset that they were kind of ignored, diminished to some degree. So I challenged Frank to come back with some ideas and some thoughts, and he came back with 13 pages worth of words. And I said, that's a little bit too much. We need to whittle this down some. And I was involved with the Connecticut Songwriters Association and Nashville Songwriters at the time. So we came up with the song, and we played it for his wife, and she started crying. And I said, Jude, was it that bad? And she said, no, that's what he's been saying from all these years. So we took his words, his thoughts, his friends' input, and we came up with a narrative and the song, which we're going to do today. And we played it for the people down in Wallingford who put up their own monument. We got invited to Washington, and one thing after another, we've been doing this song since 1995. So I'd like to play it for you now. It's called The Forgotten Ones. There were World Wars I and II, also Vietnam. We all remember them. It seems we forgot one. It lasted but 3 short years. 50,000 plus soldiers died, fighting half a world away against the red tide. Why do we seem to ignore this war? Neither lost nor won. Let's honor those who fought and died. Let's not forget the forgotten one. From the 38th parallel, south down to Seoul, blood flowed on the Poussin line. Man, it was hell. From the waters of the frozen Joes into the mighty Yalu River, Korean cold still in their bones, the night's chill lives forever. Why do we seem to ignore this war, neither lost nor won? Let's honor those who fought and died. Let's not forget the forgotten ones. The lucky ones made it home to no parades, no job well done. The sacrifices faded away just like the setting sun. Why do we seem to ignore this war, neither lost nor won? Let's honor those who fought and died. Let's not forget the forgotten ones. Let's not forget. Let's not forget. Lest we forget. Let's not forget the forgotten one. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rick. Again, as usual, I'm in my ad-lib motion. Now, I will call up Len Romanello. He'll be reading the names of the 21 casualties we have in Waterbury in the Korean War. Before I do that, let me recognize, first of all, the sister of Sergeant Victor Chenard, Claire George, and her husband. Stand up to be recognized. Also, Tim Mann, who's also standing, past commander of VFW 7790.
Following our Korean War casualties, honoring those who served from Waterbury, Connecticut. Corporal Joseph E. Bergeron, Army. Second Lieutenant John C. Carolyn, Army. PFC Leroy D. Cook, Army. Private Joseph V. Docchio, Army. Private Vincenzo C. Donaglia, Army. First Lieutenant John M. Dunn, Army. Private John J. Early, Army. Lieutenant Colonel Oscar E. Eppelin, Army. Corporal Charles A. Green, Army. PFC Gerald F. Lacrosse, Army. Sergeant Georgian D. Lippy, Army, also a Medal of Honor holder. Corporal Joseph J. Langdon, Army. PFC Edward J. McDonald, Army. Colonel Frank Monaco, Army. PFC Joseph J. Meehan, Army. Private Larry Romanelli, Army. Sergeant Rodney R. Rowe, Army. PFC James F. Ryan, Jr., Army. Our MIAs missing in action: Sergeant Victor J. Chenier, Army. First Lieutenant Gerald P. Sear, Air Force. Colonel Donald L. Humiston, Army. Sergeant Dennis Rush, Army.
Just stand there a minute. This is a little unusual presentation this year because on Wednesday of this week I received a call from Corporal Joseph Eli Bergeron's brother, Bernard. And he was wondering why his brother was never recognized as one of the missing. So I asked Bob Dorr after the conversation I had with Bernard Bergeron to look up Corporal Joseph Eli Bergeron. The E in his name is Eli, E-L-I-E. And Bob came up with the history of Joseph Bergeron. He's entitled to the Prison of War Medal, National Defense Medal, Korean Service Medal, Republic of Korea Presidential Unit Citation, the United Nations Service Medal, the Republic of Korea War Service Medal. So, by virtue of his record, that's on record, which we weren't aware of, when we received 21 names from the source of the Connecticut State Library in 1988, his name was simply Corporal Joseph E. Bergeron. So, he is memorialized at the Courts of the Missing. He's in Court 4 of Honolulu Memorial in Honolulu, of course. So, I just thought we'd do something a little different. To recognize one that we were not aware of, but no harm intended. So at this time, again, we'll have a moment of silence for all our missing and all the casualties of of the Korean War. Amen. Thank you. Now we'll call up Bob Dorr for the presentation. It's not on your, in your program book or handout. I made one up early this morning just to make sure that I didn't miss this, because I'm, as you'll notice, a little off tangent at times.
General Zyko?
No.
Oh,
Wait,
Sam?
just read it off.
Oh, okay. Read what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And then hand it to Sam.
Okay.
Just hand it-
Okay, I'm delighted to be able to make this metal box and be able to have it formally presented to the family of Tech 5 Corporal Joseph F. Carney, who served in World War II. We learned that Joseph Carney had never received his medals, and working with our Congresswoman and working with the family, I was able to create this lasting memento for Corporal Carney. Corporal Carney served in World War II in the European theater of operations. He was assigned initially to work with George Patton, General George Patton's U.S. Third Army. When Patton then was assigned to the 7th Army, Joseph was then assigned to the 7th Army. So in this box we have his 3rd Army patch, his 7th Army patch, and then he remained in Germany as part of the U.S. Army of Occupation. You'll see the Army triangle patch here, and his overseas bars, 6 overseas bars representing 36 months of overseas service. So, you know, here we are really delighted to be able to make this presentation. Let me give it to Sam, and
we'll now have our main speaker, our military speaker, who will present that. And I'm sure the family would be willing to exhibit it momentarily while they're here, however long they're going to be here, so many of you could see those medals that Corporal Carney, Joseph Carney earned. So if you will, Brigadier General Zyko and the family, Paul, bring up your mother-in-law and your wife. No, you don't have to stand up. He'll present it to you. Anybody who wants to get close enough here, we'll ask them to hold the pose. Just hold the pose. Bob, get out of the way, please. You notice how I ad lib, of course. Now, this is a moment in history that has to be remembered.
Let me just say very quickly, he was a great soldier. And in those days, all the colors were duration +6. And he did it honorably, as proven by this. And granting all of these.
Next round of applause. All right, now a slight change in the program because it's not on your list, but it's on my ad lib list. I want you, first of all, I want to recognize former Chief of Police Ed, I forgot his name. Flaherty. If it was Italian, I might remember it, although I forgot Rinaldi's name. Former police chief, a Vietnam veteran. You want to say a few words, Ed? Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I will leave it to the big and small over there, Vern Riddick, the police chief of Waterbury, and Pat Ridenour, former policeman officer in the city of Waterbury, now the Danbury chief of police. Both of you to come up together. And say whatever you will. You can raise it if you have to.
Well, I have to raise the whole platform if that were the case. Anyway, it's an honor to be here. I'll be extremely brief. I'm here mostly to honor all the veterans that are here, and specifically for Sam. He's a tremendous role model. He's been a mentor and a friend for Pat and I for many, many years. He's a great man. He's dedicated with commitment, humility, and service. So thank you all, and thank all of you veterans. Without you, there's no us. Thank you.
Everything Vern said. Good morning, everyone. It is an honor to be here, and again, we are here mainly to honor Sam, but I would like to also honor all of the veterans. My father served in the Air Force during the Korean conflict, so this one in particular is very special to me. So it is your day. We will never forget, and thank you for allowing me to say a few words.
Thank you, Vern. Thank you, Pat. Representing Mayor Neil O'Leary is the president of the Board of Aldermen, Paul Prnaruski. His father was in the Korean War, he was a naval, whatever it was, he was in the Navy in Korea. I don't remember his title. But he was a high school graduate with Ron Napoli, Ron Jerzyk, and myself. Paul Prnaruski is the way it's pronounced.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. On behalf of Mayor O'Leary, the City of Waterbury, my colleagues from the Board of Aldermen, Mike DiGiovancarlo, Ernie Brunelli, Stephanie Cummings, obviously our City Clerk, Mike Dalton, who's a Vietnam veteran, our Town Clerk, Chick Spinelli, who is whose father was a Korean War veteran as well. I want to welcome you all here today and thank you all for coming, and thank you to this committee that does so much throughout the year to be sure that we don't forget our veterans and that we continue to honor them. It is, we're here today to honor people who 67 years ago answered their country's call and went halfway around the world to a country they knew nothing about in a conflict that perhaps they didn't really understand, but they left the comforts of their home and their family and went out because their country asked them to stand up and fight against those who wanted to take freedom most directly away from the South Koreans, but ultimately wanted to take freedom away from all people in the world, and especially Americans. And they went and answered that call, and they defended those freedoms, and we're here to honor them today. And it's appropriate to honor our veterans, especially as we remember that we today have young men and women around the world doing the same thing in spots all around the world, defending freedom, defending our allies and other people, but ultimately defending us here at home so that we have the freedoms that we cherish and the ability to come together and to express ourselves the way we wish to without any fear. So I want to thank all of you who've served, especially the Korean War veterans. Thank you for your service, and may God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Mayor Dunn was here earlier before we started the program. Unfortunately, he had to attend a funeral mass this morning, so we certainly appreciate him because he's been with us every time we had this program in the last 20 years. Cutting to the chase, we go immediately to Ken Kern, representing Senator Chris Murphy's office. Ken?
Good morning. The wind this morning is no doubt the spirit of Korean War veteran Colonel Torella joining us. I think he wants to remind us that he's here with us. Before I make some brief remarks, I feel it appropriate to recognize we had a recent birthday in the audience. It hasn't been mentioned, but Sam Beeman here turned 7 years old a couple days ago. So congratulations. Happy birthday, Sam. Well, whoever coined the phrase "Forgotten War" for the Korean War was unaware of the Waterbury Veterans Committee in the city of Waterbury. 'Cause here in Waterbury, never mind a war, there isn't a single veteran that goes forgotten. And my dad, who was a pilot for the F-4 Phantoms in the Navy, taught me three things, and that's to thank a veteran when you see him or her, to always honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice, and to never, ever forget those that never came home or MIA POWs. Well, the Veterans Committee in here, this whole city of Waterbury, does those three things better than anywhere I've ever seen. And certainly when Senator Murphy is in the Senate, he brags highly about how Waterbury and the Veterans Committee remembers our veterans. So for you Korean War veterans, your service is remembered with great, great appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Our next speaker is Congresswoman Esty, who is also a very good friend of every veteran and every veteran's family. Congresswoman.
Well, good morning. Great to be here. And Ken, you stole my thunder about this young man's birthday on Thursday. And I want to thank the Waterbury Veterans Memorial Committee under Sam's awesome leadership and John's vice chairmanship. And I think it's really important. Bob, where are you? Bob Dorr should get up here because he does so much work. Bob is over here. Bob, a special round of applause for Bob, because these shadow boxes that he does, the care and the attention he gives to each, and the loving attention to find the history, to take out of the box where Joseph Carney's uniform was, to take those patches, to do the history, to understand what that means, and to give to the family not only the medals, which I was honored to play a role in securing, but he was the one who earned them. And he earned those patches in his service. And Bob is one of those unsung heroes of this city for honoring veterans and allowing families to reclaim that history, to pass that on to their children, and for us to honor them here today and to never forget. So Bob, thank you for the amazing work that you do to ensure we don't forget our veterans. Before turning to today's ceremony on the 64th anniversary of the armistice of the so-called Forgotten War, I think it's appropriate to have a moment of silence, because 50 years ago today, 134 sailors lost their lives on the USS Forrestal. So a moment of silence, please. Thank you. As everyone has said, many have mentioned, the Korean War is dubbed a forgotten war. But there are many people in this audience, and you look around, gathered with us here today, that don't forget, whether they're wearing a hat or wearing in their hearts the memory of that war. Not only those who served, those who didn't return, and those who we wish we knew where they were and deserved to be found. And so in this country, we owe that commitment not just to support our troops when we send them off, but to support them when they come home, and to support their families and to be there for them. And when we note that yesterday there was another missile launched from North Korea, is a reminder of the eternal vigilance and the importance of what our troops do every single day. And I want to note for that, for the Korean War veterans in our assembly today, the South Korean government is incredibly grateful for your service. I've had a chance to meet a number of the representatives who tell me over and over again how much they owe their freedom. And they said, I don't know if you as Americans properly understand how much we value that, how much that means to us. And they have medals, and if you have not received one of the medals from the Korean government, South Korean government, it's a peace medal. And we'd be honored to try to secure one for you, because it is a living, ongoing testament and commitment by the South Korean people of their understanding the special bond we have from those who served and those who continue to serve. So today is a day that we think about Incheon. We think about Pork Chop Hill. We think about those who fought and those who died. And we don't even know the numbers. 36,000, 50,000, 70,000, we'll never really know exactly how many we lost. And thousands we'll never really know. And for the hardships that they endured, for those bitter, cold winters, for a nation that didn't even vote to go to war and support them, we owe them our debt of gratitude. We owe them remembrance, not just today, but every day. And we owe our troops who are serving still to know that we will stand with them every step of the way. So thank you, those who served, to the families whose loved ones did not return. Our hearts are with you. And to the Waterbury Veterans Memorial Committee, thank you for all you do every day to keep veterans in our hearts and in our minds. And we have another special addition to our ceremony. And I think this fluffiness here is because it's a cold day, and in honor of Korea and how cold it was, which even for someone in Connecticut to say is the coldest they've ever been when they are Korea, you can imagine how cold that must have been. All right, birthday boy. I think we're...
Yeah, he can stay right there.
He can stay there. All
Stay
right.
right there.
You want to explain what's happening here, Jane?
No, stay put, Sam. Sam, don't. Yeah, I know. I'm married to a Marine. I've known him for a long time. I am Jane Doherty. I am one of the co-coordinators for Quilts of Valor here in Connecticut. Quilts of Valor is an internet-based foundation. We are all volunteers. There are representatives in all of the states, and it is our pleasure and privilege. You know what's coming, don't you, Sam? Yep, I gotcha. Our mission statement is to wrap those who are touched by war. So, Miss Sherry disappeared. Okay, you're elected.
I will help do the honors.
All right. Things are going to fall out of here because Sam's birthday card's in the bottom.
No, I found the birthday card.
Okay. There is a label on the quilt that says it was made for Sam and by whom. and here's a letter that tells a little bit about the history of Quilts of Valor. Congresswoman, why don't we come over here?
Okay, we're gonna.
We will.
Oh yeah.
We will. We will.
Sure
We will.
are. All right.
Okay.
Make sure we got this the right direction.
Well, it doesn't matter. Now then, because of Marines, this is a Marine quilt. It has flag raising on Iwo Jima.
All right. You know what? We're gonna flip it the other way because there are words on it.
Well, there are words on it because
There's some wonderful words on it.
this quilt
Thank you.
was at Marine Corps League National Convention, and some of your friends have signed this. They didn't know it was for you, but with all of our love. Now then, we're going to switch this way. You take this corner. Just follow me.
All right.
Let go of that side. This is how a quilt of valor is presented.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sam. Happy birthday to you.
Come on. What do you mean? It's not 100 degrees with all my hot air? Talk about ad-libbing, boy. That's the work of the Marines. You got to appreciate that for sure. Anyway, we're up to the point where we're going to introduce the military speaker, Brigadier General Eddie Zyko. I'm not going to read I had a 2-sheet bio, which he certainly has earned. I cut it down to 1 page, but I'm going to just go to 2 paragraphs. General Eddie Zyko was born in Waterbury, Connecticut on June 15, 1941. Graduated from local schools. In 1963, he graduated from the University of Connecticut with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, as well as being commissioned a regular Army second lieutenant. And that's where he started his military career. He also holds a Master of Arts degree in Political Science and a Juris Doctorate from UConn. He has a fantastic education in the Army, leadership in the Army. But I go to the last paragraph. General Zyko is married to the former Paulette Irene Cunningham, and they have 3 daughters, Erin, Eileen, and Emily, and 1 son, Eddie Jr., a West Point graduate of the class of 2001. Eddie Zyko Jr. was a proud member of the 3rd Infantry Division Mechanized during its unprecedented historical attack from Kuwait to Baghdad in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I just thought those were the 2 most important that it was necessary for you to hear about him. Please welcome Brigadier General Eddie Zyko. How's that for an intro? Right on time.
Frozen Chosen. I first heard that when I was a brand new second lieutenant at the then Benning School for Boys, the infantry school. I had put in to go to Vietnam, but in those days they only took first lieutenants. So my second choice came down, and as soon as it was all listed that I was going to go to Korea, the guy started telling me about Frozen Chosen and that kind of thing. You believe it, you sort of don't believe it. But that term is very appropriate because, as the Congresswoman said, the winter there is brutal. Brutal. Started snowing just before Christmas, and it didn't stop until, God, I don't know when it stopped. But when you live outside in that stuff, and that's what we did, we lived outside. Occasionally we'd get back to our compound, but ironically it was more dangerous to be in your compound than to be out doing what infantrymen are supposed to be doing. Let me take a second on that. On my ride back, probably the last time I rode in a vehicle for 6 months, the battalion adjutant who came down to pick me up came down to 7th Division headquarters to pick me and another lieutenant up on the way up. He said, first lieutenant, so in those days that was a big deal. Brand new second lieutenant and senior first lieutenant. He says to me, you're going to be happy when you're not in the compound, because they have the compound, I say they, the bad guys, I'm not going to use the term that we used at the time, but the bad guys have it zeroed in, and if you don't hear it, that means that you will evaporate it. And if you hear it, you want to make sure you get your troops the hell out of there. And we used to practice that all the time when we were back in the compound. But the winter was indeed brutal. But then again, we was followed by, those of you who have served there will know, it was followed by a wonderful harvesting season, growing season. And in those days, they did not use anything but human fertilizer, human and animal fertilizer. And the whole country stunk. The whole country stunk to high heaven. So I started pining for the winter, to be honest about it. No matter where you went, no matter where you went. But the key thing about Korea and me and the Army, I had some good fortune in the Army and went from being a second lieutenant, raised my arm at stores, went in the Army, and along the way I had a long relationship with Korea. Not only with my tour then, but when I was at the Pentagon at the Department of the Army Staff, I had good fortune of doing some planning involving how we would get there and fight there and that kind of thing. And then later on in my career, I'm not trying to brag, I'm just trying to tell you, I had the good fortune of commanding a mechanized infantry battalion, and later a heavy separate mechanized infantry brigade. And both of them were oriented towards Korea. And secondary mission was Europe. Primary mission was the Northeast Pacific, which meant Korea. And specifically, I remember when I was commanding the brigade, about 7,500 great soldiers. I got a phone call one night from the Corps Commander, the 3-star General, Lieutenant General Kavesa, right at my home. He tells me, he says, Eddie, he says, get to your Stu 3. That was our today prehistoric type classified communications. So I got my Stu 3 out, plugged it in, and we started talking. He says, you've been following the news? And I said, yes, sir. And he says, I've asked for you. He says, your numbers look terrific, and I've seen your boys in the field. They look terrific. I've asked for you, but you got to tell me right now, otherwise I'm going to tear your head off later on. Are those numbers for real? You know, when you're only a 1-star and you're talking to a 3-star, you start shaking a little bit when he tells you that. And I said, yes, sir, because they were for real. The sad part about that is that unit no longer exists. It was part of the quote-unquote peace dividend. And as you may remember, shortly after, former President Jimmy Carter strolled across the DMZ and settled everything. Which leads me, because I told John that I wouldn't speak too long, because I could talk all day, but that nothing has changed. And the word frozen on the frozen chosen is absolutely true. When you look back, the armistice was signed, and I'm not knocking him. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Harry Truman, but when you fire MacArthur, that sends one hell of a signal to the Chinese and to the North Koreans that the Americans are not going to fight this to win. We're just going to fight it to drag it out. So they chose to drag it out, and they did at Panmunjom and whatnot. And somebody mentioned Pork Chop Hill, and my old division fought like hell to take that hill because it was important negotiating chip, not because it had military value. And we did. Matter of fact, it was my battalion, 2nd Battalion, 32nd Infantry, not when I was in it, but before that took that hill and held it. That was the important thing. They took it, thrown off, take it, get thrown off, take it, get thrown off. But they took it and held it, and shortly thereafter, the armistice was signed. I am convinced that one of the key reasons, it leads me up to near the end of my remarks, is that we had a new president. And again, I had an immense amount of respect for Harry Truman, but we had a new president, a guy named Ike. Everybody liked Ike. And Ike was one of the great warriors in history. And it was rumored that Ike had said when he gets to be president, not only is he going to go to Korea and visit, but he said that if they don't stop, we're going to nuke them. Rumored. And shortly after that, the armistice was signed. We could get away with that in those days because the North Koreans' army did not possess what it possesses today. And frankly, South Korea has prospered immensely. I've had friends of mine who have served more recently than I there, who have said that it's almost like living in Long Island. It just one suburb after another, heading on up towards the DMZ. And the North Korean Army is very well equipped with artillery and rockets. They were in those days, as evidenced by what my famous battalion adjutant scared the hell out of me with as I was driving down the road to our brigade area. But although the ROK Army, the Republic of Korea Army, I can personally attest to that, having worked with them over a number of years, is immensely better than it was at the end of the Korean conflict, when whole South Korean divisions disappeared. The Chinese would come, massive wave attack, and battalions and regiments and whatnot of the Korean Army would just disappear. Today, the ROK Army will fight, and most of the time the ROK Army will win. The Republic of Korea Air Force is marginally better than significantly better than the North Korean Air Force. However, they have all of that captive population, probably several million that live north of Seoul. And it's only about 30 miles from the DMZ to downtown Seoul. And that 30 miles, much of it is covered by mines that are set. All you need to do is hit the I forgot what the heck they call it, but so it blows. The bridge is below, and there's pillboxes at every corner. But the artillery shells and the rockets from the North Korean long-range artillery, they have an artillery piece which outranges our artillery pieces, would reach to the heart of Seoul. So they would get one big barrage off, and then they would die. But by then, so many South Koreans and South Korea, the heart of South Korea, would be blown up. So they've got that hostage. But, and I don't want to be political, I'm talking militarily now. We're at a crossroads now. In months, the bad guys are going to be able to put an ICBM up and reach, according to the newspaper now, Eddie Zyko's not saying it's Chicago and LA. Another year, they're going to reach perhaps Waterbury. So the point is, are we going to do what we have done time after time after time? Are we going to continue the situation the way it was when I went in the Army back in '63? Are we going to allow the situation just to metastasize until it gets to the point where a little tin horn despot with a military which we could relatively easily defeat if it weren't for the hostage situation? We're going to let him dictate to us our policy and allow him to enslave his 25 million people. And I've seen it time and time again. First, we let him get nukes. We didn't do anything. We let him start missiles. We went on and on and on. We even tried to buy him off with oil and wheat and that kind of stuff. So the point is, we're at a crossroads, in my humble military opinion, as a retired soldier. I speak nothing from the Department of the Army anymore. So with that, I say, let's get the situation done, and hopefully we can do it peacefully. If we can't do it peacefully, it needs to be done smart militarily. Ed Zyko's opinion. With that, I say thank you, and John, I'll let you go.
Amen to that. Amen. All right, we're approaching the closing, so at this time, let me acknowledge Leonard Romanello Sr., as chairman of this event, Dan, Gloria Potter, Bob Dorr, Tony Sarandia, amongst others who helped put up all the flags and other things that had to be done here. A very special round of applause for the City of Waterbury Parks Department. We've got Anthony Picocci here, making sure that the microphone was working, making sure the speaker was working. But more importantly, he was part of the group that kneaded up the downtown green after the fences came down and the construction and renovations were done. So a nice warm round of a hand of applause to the Park Department in total and the City of Waterbury for taking care of this monument. And in short order, by Veterans Day, we will have the two wings, the two sides of this one ring to my left, appropriately designated Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and on the other side, Global War on Terror. Is that correct, Bob? That it's in the works. Having said that, May Flynn, thank you, part of our Project Hometown group. I don't know if there's anybody else with you, but all right. Well, thank you. These are the people that put together those packages of goodies, socks, and toiletries, etc., to those that are far and away. So we certainly thank you for your support. So we've got down to a closing prayer. Those of you that are seated, you remain seated. Everybody else, whatever you want to do. Heavenly Father, Thou who art light, and in whom is no darkness at all, let no cloud of our hatred or smoke of hot revenge dim for us the brightness of Thy face. And in the end, bring us and our enemies together into the beauty of Thy peace. Amen. Now I'm going to call up Kim Jeremiah once again to lead us with God Bless America. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you again for inviting me here today. It's always an honor to be here with the Waterbury Veterans Memorial Committee. And thank you to all of the veterans that have served, not only in the Korean War, but in every war. We thank you and we honor you. I had the honor and the privilege of being able to tour overseas and bring a little bit of happiness to our servicewomen and our servicemen overseas many years ago. And Korea was one of the places we visited. And it was an honor to go there, but it was also enlightening, and it also opened our eyes. Because before they took us right out to the actual building where the DMZ is, they showed us things that happened. And the sacrifice and the courage and the bravery of our men and women that serve. So this is a song that we sing to close every single show. We have changed the words. It's for the ones who died, because there are women that gave up their freedom just as well as men that served as well. So we close with God Bless the USA. Please join me if you are able. If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my family by my side, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and you can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died and gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and Waterbury to LA, there's a pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died and gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died and gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless you and God bless America.
Thank you, Kim Jeremiah of Durable Auto. I tell you, I'm an ad libber. Two things. I apologize for the program that you have that's not quite up to the one that I have. Because again, that had to be printed in numbers. What I did this morning was make sure on my computer I printed an adjusted one that had most of the things that had to be done. But that's why I always carry, as a former Toastmaster, I always carry two pens with me in case one dies out, so I can keep ad-libbing, because my memory, as you can see, sometimes fails me. But at any rate, what I want to do at this point, and that's why I circle around sometimes here to make sure that somebody reminds me of what I should be done. I want to thank our city clerk, Michael J. Dalton, because last evening we presented to the city of Waterbury in the renovated municipal stadium a brand new POW flag. Thank you, Michael. And one other point, a young lady over here asked me for a program book, and Itch takes care of that. Don't worry about who Itch is. He's one of the people we depend on. But the bottom line is that I was introduced to Julius, the great grandson of Joe Carney. So I've got him on my ad lib program, but the programs I gave her, I said, you'll have to write it in yourself. Having said that, we're going to have, from the Civil War reenactor Martin Spring, who's with the organization called Sons of Union Veterans, a 3-shot volley, and I mean a 3-shot. It's not a 3 volley per se. You're on. As he concludes the last shot, we will have taps. During taps, we will ask all those who can stand and salute. Martin, you're on. He was ready for the first one. Don't talk amongst yourselves.
The last one I'm going to double load to honor all the veterans. So hold your ear.
He said he's going to double up on the sound. Let's put it that way. So, hang on to your chair. Stand up. Salute. Two. Thank you. A round of applause for Gil Graveline. Thank you. Thank you all for being a part of the 20th Annual Korean War Remembrance Day ceremony. Thursday was the 64th anniversary of the date of the Korean War armistice in 1953. Say a prayer for our POW, MIAs, and for all the men and women who have gone before us. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I am quick. My left bag on
How are you?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
Not bad. Can't complain. I told John about this. He said I gotta get some information on your fund about it. Just want to stand.
I've back. Who I am.
Oh wait, he's still. Well, you know what I wanted